FAA is a great example. I know the senator from Colorado mentioned that the conference committee hasn't brought out a bill. What's amazing about this is the Senate appointed their conferees in April. And for those that are watching, the way this works, the House passes a bill, the Senate passes a bill. They're not always exactly the same, so they go to a joint conference committee made up of members from the House, members from the Senate, Democrats and Republicans, and they work out a compromise. Well, the House members, or the Senate members, have and did appoint their members in April. The House hasn't appointed anybody. Anybody. So the battle we're in is because of one person. One person who's decided that 4,000 people should be furloughed, about 80 in Alaska, to stop projects that are critical to safety, airport transportation. And I can tell you there is no other state that depends on air transportation like Alaska. 80% of our communities have no access by road. It is by air. And so for one person to decide that he wants to play politics or he doesn't like something, oddly enough, the items he wanted to eliminate are from states that are represented by Democrats and chairmen of committees. I mean, it's unbelievable. You know, I didn't come here 2.5, 3 years ago to play those games. I came here to do the work that the people of Alaska send me to do. Part of that work was to make sure that the Federal Aviation Administration actually has legislation that they can operate under, because they haven't had it since 2007. I got elected in 2008. They've had 20 extensions to this while they work out the differences. The Senate did pass a bill. We did our work. We did it. We did it with a lot of debate. I sit on that committee, a Commerce Committee, as a member. Senator Rockefeller, Senator Hutchinson, Republican, Democrat, did the work with all the members. We then sent it over. House passed theirs, and now we're waiting. We're waiting for the House to do something. Not one person, because that's not how this system should work, but appoint a conferees so we can sit down and resolve these final minor issues. But instead, the chairman decides over there that he thinks best. He knows best. Here's what happens. Yes, 4,000 people get furloughed all across this country. People who have mortgage payments to make, and probably some kids they have that are planning to go to college this fall, and maybe they're the only breadwinner in their home. But 4,000 people, 79 in Alaska, direct FAA employees. But compound that with the next piece of the equation. Part of the FAA bill is to invest the people who fly. I fly a lot. I think I'll hit probably 100,000 plus miles this year, maybe more, 125,000 miles flying back and forth from Washington to my home state, visiting communities all across my state. And I pay a fee, like everyone does in our bill that we pay for our tickets, to go to the FAA, who then invest them into making sure our runways are safer, our facilities are safer. It's the people who fly, their money that goes to the FAA to pay for the improvements that we use when we fly. It's not complicated. And yet, what's happening, because the airlines don't have the authority to collect this tax, this fee, they're unable to then collect it and give it to the federal government. Now, it's important, that fee, and I'll get back to this fee in a second of what's happening with that money. But first, without that money, you cannot do the construction projects. It's all part of the system. So in Alaska, it's a pretty important piece. In Bethel, a project now has stop work order there because they can't complete the project. Now, as my friend from Colorado mentioned, Colorado has a short construction season. We have a very short construction season in Bethel. And so we're trying to build a project there that improves the approach lights, make it safer for people to land at the Bethel Airport. That project has been stopped. There's no other access to Bethel except by air. We're 400 miles from Anchorage, the largest city in the state, by air, because you cannot drive to Bethel. So that project has stopped. Another project is the air traffic control tower in Anchorage. Now people say, oh, it's just a tower, what does it matter? Well, you know, the tower's old, it needs improvements. And here's why it's important. It's not only important for Alaska, and again, the people who would do that project, it's important for this country. We're the third busiest air cargo airport in the sense of cargo throughput in the world. We move products from around the world through Anchorage that are produced around the world and produced in this country. If you're shipping something to Europe or Asia and you're west of the Mississippi, the odds are you're coming through Anchorage International Airport. Almost 700 wide-body jets fly through there every single week carrying cargo. The third busiest cargo throughput in the world. It's an economic engine. It's a job creator. I remember almost 25 years ago when the idea from two companies, a couple companies, FedEx, UPS, said, geez, we'll look at Anchorage as maybe our international hub because of its location. Today, it's a robust facility, and many other airlines and airlines use it, and cargo facilities use it. Huge. But again, because the House isn't doing their job by appointing conferees, resolving this, instead one person decides he wants to play politics over the life safety of our air traffic system, the Federal Aviation System. That project's not happening. So not only are the 79 FAA employees furloughed in Alaska, projects in Bethel and Anchorage aren't moving forward, so that means the private contractors who concern, it's not government employees that make these improvements and build these extensions or lighting systems or remodeling the tower. It's private contractors who employ people who then pay mortgages and buy cars and spend money in the economy and help our economy move forward. So their action is clearly a job-killing action. That's what it is. Now, they'll say some other reasons, but that's what it's doing. It's killing jobs. And it's hurting and going to cost more. Because when the season's over in the next month or month and a half construction season in Bethel, you don't get to come back in November and say, we're going to finish this project. You can't. The weather conditions don't allow it. So what you'll end up doing is next year, and of course the costs will go up because the private contractor, and I hear a lot from folks on the other side over there in the House talk about private sector, hey, I'm from the private sector. I don't know how many of those guys work in the private sector, but I have. That's where I made my living. That's why my wife makes her living, from the private sector. And they spout off about how they want to support the private sector. Well, then pass the legislation that the private sector supports, wants to see move forward for the creation of more jobs and an opportunity to make our air safer. So again, Mr. President, it's astounding to me, you know, how dysfunctional the House majority is over there, how they're unable to do the work. You know, they complained a lot earlier this year that the Senate doesn't do their job and we're not doing our work. We are doing our work. We passed the military construction VA bill. We passed the FAA bill. We passed several things out of here. It goes over there and dies. Goes over there and they have one person who decides they know best. A lot of those guys ran in 2010 on the effort to open government, 72 hours to review bills and all this other, which is great. I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it. They had some rules committee meeting earlier last night or whenever late night they did it to set the rules of what they're going to vote on in less than 12 or 13 hours. So I'm sure that's been notified to a lot of people. It's amazing to me these guys ran on the fact they want to open government, the system's broken, and then it's so dysfunctional over there. The FAA bill, as I mentioned, these airlines collect fees that then go to the FAA to make sure all this happens. It's part of the fee we pay to travel. Well, now they're not authorized to collect it, but what happened? Several of these airlines jacked up their fees to collect the money for their own. $200 million a week coming from consumers into the pockets of these airlines for their profits, not to improve the safety of the airports, which is the money it's supposed to be designed for. Now, I will say, Alaska Airlines, and I'm proud to say Alaska Airlines, Hawaiian Air, Spirit Airlines are three examples of companies that did not do that. They did not jack up the consumer for their own bottom line. And remembering that their job is, those fees are for the purpose of improving airports, not improving the corporate profits or the CEO's million-plus dollar checks they get at the end of the year for their work they do. Problem is, we're just like something that happened many years ago, something similar like this happened. We're not going to be able to get those resources back to make sure these airports are safer. I'd, of course, implore the airlines to do one of two things: to lower those fares they jacked up, or put that money aside and work with Congress to make sure that money goes into the fund to ensure that we improve these airports. I challenge every one of those airlines that have done that, because as a consumer who's watching this issue, they should be appalled that $200 million a week that you think or you thought was going to improve the airports you fly through, it's not. It's going in the pockets for profit for some of these companies. Again, I'd point out Alaska Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, Spirit Airlines are a few of the only majors that aren't doing that. And I commend them for that. I commend them for doing the right thing